All right, good to go.
All right.
Well, welcome everyone, and this is our TaskWarrior community meeting. We meet up every 2 weeks, and today we've got a short agenda of mostly just the developer updates from Dustin and Felix. So I'll turn it over to you guys.
Felix, do you want to highlight anything before I get rolling?
No, I'm trying to look into a bit into the performance drop that we had. I mean, like, I made an upgrade on my personal laptop that already helped a lot. That's not a very recommended way. No, I try to get there into the running that we get up to speed, but yeah, right now it's a bit slow on my end.
Okay.
But yeah, that's my direction.
Makes sense. So just looking at the project board for the last 2 weeks, been quite a bit of stuff going on. There was an interesting bug about date time and a bounds checking failure that meant that a task that recurred every 70 years would actually crash TaskWarrior. So we managed to fix that, and that was an interesting chase. And it does feel like this project has a lot of people who are interested in thinking about how we handle time. We've got a number of fairly obscure holidays that we support, and date time formats and things like that. So it's interesting to kind of delve into that, although it's not really my jam. In TaskWarrior itself, Tomas has been triaging some tickets, which has been nice to see. Some older stuff, we're seeing if he can verify it, closing some, offering extra detail on some of them. Had a couple build issues, building on Clang and things like that. Nothing too critical to report out here. It's mostly been working on bugs. TaskChampion has made some interesting progress. So we now support syncing to AWS as well as GCP and the sync server. So both the main two clouds, at least outside of China, are supported now, and that's my GCP sync is like 1 cent a month. So I expect that AWS will be a similar kind of price. So it's relatively cheap if you have an AWS or GCP account, but I understand that folks may not want to deal with those cloud providers. Let's see, we're making some changes to the database so that it knows what version it's at, because we made some changes to the database earlier, and then it realized that there were some potential compatibility issues there, where if you ran an older TaskWarrior with a newer database, things might get corrupted. So some kind of preventive maintenance for next time. And that's, yeah, the rest of it's just sort of maintenance stuff. So I think that's going to be the TaskChampion 1.0 release. I was thinking of including the Git sync in there, but I'm not 100% sure I want to do a Git sync, and maybe we can loop back to that at the end. But that'll be TaskChampion 1.0, and we'll put that into TaskWarrior, and TaskWarrior will support AWS syncs as well. But the main kind of focus that I've been working on is TaskChampion sync server. So I have a PR up, number 68, for an easy way to set up the server and run it for personal use. And one of the things that makes this difficult is you really want to run TLS or HTTPS to talk to the server, and that can be a little tricky to set up. People who know how to run Nginx or HTTPD or something like that, not so hard. But if you're just a command line jockey, you might not know that stuff. So I was able to set up a Docker Compose system that uses a front end called Caddy to do the TLS, and then talks to the TaskChampion sync server in the back end. So if you have a Docker environment and can run Docker Compose up, and you have a machine that has a public IP address, this is a very easy way to just run a sync server, and it'll automatically start on boot. Pretty much does everything you need it to do. So that's the idea, is to provide an easy on-ramp for people who just want to run the sync server and sync their tasks and don't want to mess around it. Of course, there's lots of options for other ways to host this. It's built to be flexible, but we're trying to kind of address that common, simple need there. So that's still in review. I'd love to have someone look at that and say, yes, this works for me, or this seems like the right way to solve this before I merge it, but we'll see. Maybe I'll just click merge on that. And we've done some other minor improvements to the sync server. So better support for the SQLite backend. It turns out we weren't quite using transactions correctly. And some better logging. So that's about it. So that will come out as TaskChampion Sync Server, the next version. I'll probably release that once I merge this easier setup. Yeah, so we're looking at probably a TaskChampion and TaskChampion Sync Server release in the next week or so. And then TaskWarrior kind of usually follows along after that, a little bit after that. So maybe not by the next meeting. That'll be Sync Server 0.5. And we do have a lot of good first. We have a lot of things up for review and a lot of good first bugs. There's certainly plenty of opportunities for folks to get involved in the development process here. And it is a little hard to do development with a relatively small number of people because I feel like I'm flagging the same people for review every time, and that gets annoying, as Felix probably knows. So more people involved would be great. That's all.
One question, like, what's your way of testing TaskWarrior with the latest TaskChampion? Because for the performance stuff, I'm running TaskWarrior, but I might need to do changes in TaskChampion. How? And and it will not be published yet, or is there any way to use like a local TaskChampion where I could modify and then, but still use my local install one?
Yeah, there's a way to edit the cargo.toml in TaskWarrior with a path attribute to say, here's where you should find the source for this crate, and you can just point that to your checkout of TaskChampion.
Okay.
If you ping me on Discord, I can write out how to do that. And we should put that in the README somewhere. If you want to use a new development of TaskChampion, here's the trick.
Yeah, because I think for some development it makes sense to have a local version and test something out, and then
I've certainly done that just to make sure before I release TaskChampion that this is solving the goal that I need in TaskWarrior. So
yeah, exactly. And I could have a look over the Portainer you set up from the TaskSync.
That'd be great.
I have it currently with the Docker running, so I could just spin up another Docker, check if it's syncing, if it behaves as I expect, syncs and doesn't die, and then give a review.
Great. Put a link in Discord for that. Any other questions?
No, just a comment. That sounds like excellent progress and moving in a good direction.
I think there's also this one open PR where it's for the, how's it called, this Guru base, like the documentation with AI support. I just replied. I mean, like my option, I think it might be a good option to have people more interactive with the documentation. But I just checked it for some stuff, and it was doing a good mix of like old documentation and new one. And I think I also like tried to reply because, yeah, I mean, like I don't know what's like the general thoughts about this AI help, because I think if people then use AI to generate some bugs, and then we need to figure out what is really done in the issues, it will be really hard, because I think already now one notices that in a lot of issues is people don't read the documentation, which is a bit hard. Like a lot of stuff is like, hey, that's the first reply if you Google the man page or something. I don't know what's the best way forward with all these like AI and documentation, because I mean, it sounds a bit bad, but I think the TaskWarrior documentation is on like 50% good and 50% outdated or something. So we notice like a lot of inconsistency also between documentation on website, in the man pages, and then maybe also some difference to the actual behavior. So I'm like, if we as people are hardly be able to figure out how it's really behaving, I doubt that like even if it's a really good AI model will figure it out, because it can't run the code. It doesn't know how it's really behaving. So that's where I think, but that's, I think, a general goal to improve the documentation overall, because there's a bit of inconsistency everywhere, but it's hard.
Are the man pages available online somewhere?
I think there was somewhere I think I read it somewhere, or I think are they not even connected to the website? I'm
believe
not.
that's the case. That bug is still open.
Okay, yeah, because I just know I read something about this. I don't know if it's yet done.
Right. Yeah. That might be a good start, is just to have kind of the authoritative reference documentation on the website. I think a lot of the documentation that is on the website, some of it may be incorrect, but it's also not very authoritative. It's more of the guide style description of
Yeah,
how things work.
exactly. It's more like you could do it like this, and I mean, like I think that's nice. I mean, like it helped me back then really to get it working. So, but yeah, one needs to read it and try it out.
Wesley, I see you put in the chat that it is available on the Debian page, and that's useful. Although that's probably 262, isn't it? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, maybe we could try to get it also on the website and up to date
Yeah.
drop out of it. No.
Yeah, I've been using perplexity.ai with a lot of success when I have TaskWarrior issues because it reads the website and then generates its answer from the most up to date. It's not using archived material.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I mean like I think this is like, in general like a hard topic to say what's a good way forward because like as with all the generation also for general knowledge it's like yeah it's good if it's working but if it's producing these false positives I just checked it with the install where it's like you have for 2.6 for example like a good install that you can just follow it's like 5 commands and you have good or like at least up to date install for also 3.0 and then the generated version was a mix of both so like in the end it would not work at all so it was checking out branches that doesn't exist and like yeah these stuff it's then like it's also hard to help then people because yeah I mean like if you reference to the documentation you always know what's up to date or because it changes between the versions but yeah it's I was thinking a bit about what would be the best way but I don't know what's a good way.
I did try and I did quite a bit of editing on the docs maybe 2 years ago, but I really didn't feel like I was authoritative on the project. So a lot of things like here's how we do branches or never rebase or there were a lot of sort of opinionated things in there when I didn't feel like I had the authority to change those opinions.
Yeah.
So there might be, so in many cases I left that behind where at least this seemed to document how things ran at that point. So maybe we could do another spin through, especially for the developer documentation and fix that.
Yeah, maybe it would make sense.
And to the question of guru base, I mean, I guess we should probably merge, or this is a PR, right? I think it's just adding a link to it.
Yeah.
We should probably merge that because it seems like everyone's reasonably positive on it. And to the kind of question of like, are these tools going to mislead users? Probably, but I think the whole internet's dealing with that issue. And whether we merge this or not, people are going to use these tools. So
yeah. No, I think it's also like it gives people an easy access into it, and that's like the most important. That you can easy get started, and then like, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I'll merge that now.
Nice.
Anything else to talk about?
I have nothing at the moment.
I think that's everything. Our next meeting will be the 21st of December, and then we skip the winter holidays and come back early in January. Does that sound about right?
Sounds good to me.
All right. Well then, thank you very much, gentlemen. This has been terrific.
All right.
See you in a bit.
All right. Bye.